Good morning. This is Monty once again from DPL Surveillance Equipment. And today looks like it's going to be a very, very nice day for those people who want to get out and about and go to the park, go to the beach or something. Just get out and get some fresh air. I think I'm going to take a nap in a few hours. And then I'll get up later on, 4 or 5 o'clock or something, and take my cat for a walk. I did my typical 4 or 5 hours at least in the gym yesterday, and that typically means that the day after I don't do too much at all. And today, Sunday, I fast. I do my 24-hour fast. So in between recuperating from the workout, I also fast. So you don't typically want to do too much when you're fasting and recuperating from 5 hours in the gym. And of course my gym, the time I spent in the gym. Wait a second here. So the sauna, just so you guys will know, I think is an essential part of your overall workout routine or regimen. Your muscles need to be exposed to the extreme heat associated with saunas. I can't remember how hot it is, 185 degrees or something. And anyway, you sit there for 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever you can stand. And if you can't stand much, you just work your way up to the longer and longer time periods. But you need to detoxify, and you need to make sure that you, because the sauna activates the heat shock proteins in your immune system, and that boosts your resilience, actually, particularly when you go and exercise again afterwards. You'll notice that the next time you go back to the gym, you're able to do more for longer, and it's more rigorous. You can exercise more rigorously when your muscles recuperate as a result of the heat, the exposure to the saunas and the extreme heat. Your muscles recuperate and they become more resilient, and you can actually build up your endurance significantly over time. At least this has been the case for me, and this is what's been mentioned in the articles by the experts and such. So make sure you take advantage of that. Anyway, today is a beautiful day. I think we got like 100% containment on the fires, and in California, I think Southern and Northern California, at least Southern California, I can't remember whether or not they got 100% up north, but definitely in Southern California and Malibu areas and stuff like that. So I know those people are happy to try and get their lives back, put back as much together as possible, considering the circumstances. Let's see what else is going on. The tech stocks are still taking a beating. I want you guys to remember that the equity markets overall are experiencing what could be a prolonged and protracted bear trend. Every once in a while, you're going to get these spikes. Okay, even during next week, you're going to get some spikes that will give you the impression that things are all well and good and all of that stuff. But remember, if we're in a bear trend, you will get spikes, just like in the crypto space. Bitcoin and those guys, every once in a while they spike up, but we're in a bear trend too, which is kind of stupid because those of us who are Bitcoin maximalists and just devout Bitcoin people, we want the money to come out of the equity market. If the equity market is in a bear trend, any of those markets, gold, real estate, equities, whatever, We want that money to come out of those markets and go into the crypto space. But it seems like the money is not, as far as I can tell, it's not flowing directly from any of those markets into the crypto space, which is not good because we are experiencing for the first time how Bitcoin reacts when we're in a recession. And you heard from me, and I'm going on record, as I mentioned before, I'm stating that we are indeed in a recession. And when you're in recession, you get a chance to find out how certain things are going to behave, how individuals are going to behave, those who haven't been in a recession before, and you get to find out how your investments behave if they've never been through a recession before. So a lot of the investors in the equity markets, they've never been in a recession. They're going to find out whether or not they have the resilience to stay put or not. And in the crypto space, same thing. And we're seeing a lot of money flee from both sectors. A number of sectors are getting hit, and investors, those who are relatively young and inexperienced, they panic and they get scared and they pull every dime out and they run for cover. But those of us who are in the crypto space, we're a little disappointed, of course, because we're expecting hundreds of billions of dollars to flow into the crypto space. But it looks like we don't have that type of investor base yet. Now, if we get large institutional money, that'll be different. If Fidelity's and those guys, New York Stock Exchange owners, ICE, if the I think what's called backed, if ETF money and all those things, if they get approved and have their way, maybe that will bring institutional money into the space. But right now, every market is being tested, and I'm holding firm. I'm not selling anything, especially at the lower prices. If you want to sell, you sell at higher prices. Every once in a while, I take a little tiny bit of profits, but you definitely don't want to be selling significant amounts of your portfolios in a bear market at the lower prices. Wait till you get the spikes at least. So anyway, my name is Monty Henry, owner of DPL Surveillance Equipment, and we run a full-service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all the products. 24/7, 365 tech sales and customer support, the largest inventory of items that not only can you buy, but you can rent and lay away as well. A huge and expanding media library. Some of the categories in terms of the subjects that we cover: cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, of course, economics and finance, if you haven't guessed, health and fitness, surveillance and counter-surveillance, we cover that, terrorist and anti-terrorist technologies, miscellaneous category. Yesterday I published, for instance, some information. Well, I didn't publish it yesterday. It was on my website for a long period of time, a number of years. But I republished information on a labyrinth. Labyrinth is basically it's like a maze, but a maze is designed to get you lost somehow, right? And you have to figure out how not to get lost or how to get out. Labyrinth is different. Labyrinth is an old, ancient technique of balancing your left and right brain hemispheres for spiritual enhancements, for instance, where you get a chance to navigate your way from the outside of the labyrinth into the inside. When you get into the inside, well, as you work your way to the inside, you're going through a series of circuitous routes and paths that allow you to balance by the nature of the way you walk from the outside to the inside. You balance the left and right brain hemispheres. Spiritual enhancement goes on as a result of walking in and out. But when you get to the center, you actually do a spiritual meditation of some sort, personal inventory if you need to, make some sort of affirmation. Then you work your way back out from the middle. And then that's it. And if you're studious, you do this 1 or 2 or 3 times a week on an ongoing basis if you can. But remember, you got to be spiritually, you got to feed the spirit, you got to spiritually balance, financially, right? Keep that up too. Physically, definitely. And I know I'm missing another leg of the stool, but definitely. Physical, mentally, financially, and emotionally. So, anyway, keep all the pillars of your stool strong, and that way, when everyone else is panicking and everyone else is confused, there's going to be a small group of people who are going to be able to make rational, well thought out decisions, and they'll be able to protect their wealth and their families, and keep going forward, even in the event of crisis. Okay, so. Anyway, that's one of the articles that I republished yesterday on my on my website. In addition to predatory loan companies going out there, and they call it merchant cash advances. Again, it's called merchant cash advances. That's a technical term. They're disguising themselves as friendly companies who just want to give you a loan if you're a business. Yellowstone Capital is mentioned in the article. They're pioneers of this almost illicit criminal activity, which unfortunately government agencies and such also assist these predatory loan sharks. So if you get calls from companies, excuse the noise. If you get calls from companies for your business and they want to loan you money, be careful, because a lot of times the terms are very, very attractive. But actually what happens, and this is explained thoroughly in the articles, actually what happens is if you miss one payment, I don't care if it's accidental or an error on behalf of the bank or whatever the reason is, they use that as a justification for seizing all of your assets in your bank account. The banks get a letter, which they will definitely approve, and allow those companies to seize every dime in your bank account. Okay, there's countless cases where people have lost a lot more money than they were actually liable for, as far as the amount that they borrowed. Okay, so look at the details of it. It's in my under articles on my website, and can't remember the exact name of it, but let's see if I can find it for you guys. Let me see. What is the name of that article? I can't remember, but just go to my website. It's amongst the most latest, the most recent articles on there, and you're gonna find it. And I suggest you share it with other people so that people will be able to hopefully avoid this basically a scam operation, which hasn't been officially declared illegal. So a lot of those guys are getting away with it. Definitely. Anyway, let me see. Just go to my website. I'll see if I can find it on what I'm doing this podcast. But yeah, so that's one of the articles. Oh yeah, we accept Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bcash, and Ethereum on our website. So you may want to go there and take a look at using some of your crypto wealth to patronize our business and shopping carts. I know the economy is very slow and things are tough out there. But if you guys can support some of your local businesses, then you definitely will have some choices as more and more retail operations are threatened and as they go under as a result of massive consolidation and as a result of operations like Amazon. The article is entitled "A Debt Collection Machine That's Chewing Up Small Businesses Across America." Again, a debt collection machine that's chewing up small businesses across America. That's the one you want to read, especially if you're an entrepreneur or if you own a business of your own. These guys are really getting away with murder. So anyway, the website, our website is completely redesigned. I just added a subscription feature, a notification feature rather. What it does is, like Amazon and YouTube, Facebook, those guys. When you go to those websites, you can subscribe, so to speak, so that you'll get a notification if someone publishes a new video or something on YouTube. If someone says something on Facebook and you subscribe to their feed or whatever, you get a notification in your browser or whatever, right? And that way, you know, okay, I need to go over to Facebook or YouTube or Amazon and check on something, right? So anyway, we got that notification feature on our website. And I'm adding little bells and whistles every once in a while just to make things convenient for you guys. So you'll get a heads up on our articles and the videos and different things, maybe some products, new products as well. We'll figure that out as well, okay? Anyway, what else? We want to poke a finger in the eye of MasterCards and the Visas, the American Expresses, right? The UBSs of the world, the Citibanks and all of those guys, MasterCard, Visas, and those guys. They're ripping you off. They're ripping me off, ripping everybody off. They're creating a very hostile environment where chargebacks and disputes and too many surcharges and discount fees going through the roof, antiquated old technology, convoluted bureaucratic way of doing business is just costing us tons and tons of money. Make sure you guys understand. Let me let this plane go over. Make sure you guys understand that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are providing an alternative to doing business with those guys. When you have credit card issuers and banks and processors and all those guys, forcing you to do business their way and then charging you a lot of money for being a middleman, whenever things progress to the point where technology progresses to the point where you do without the middleman, you got to do without the middleman. You want to make that transition because those of us who do without the middleman, we're going to be saving a lot of money, okay? We're going to be taking advantage of some very neat technologies that come about as a result of innovation. But when you're dealing with the old guard, the old school fiat currency-based, broken, dilapidated system, you don't get a chance to take advantage of the new innovation. You don't get a chance to save the type of money that we save in the cryptocurrency space when Bitcoin transactions cost like 0.01% or whatever, less than a penny or something like that, and you don't worry about chargebacks. You don't worry about disputes. You don't worry about call this number, send me proof that I should release your money back to you, and all these things. If you do a transaction, like I know, if you do a if you do a transaction with a customer, you want to know that transaction has gone through and that it's good, right? Well, believe it or not, a chargeback can be on the books for 3 months, 6 months at a time, and that's the amount of time that the customer actually has that they can do the chargeback, right? So a sale is not a sale, right? If it can be undone within 6 months, you don't really have the reassurance like you do in the crypto space that a transaction is actually finalized. So anyway, notice the difference, take advantage of the differences, and understand the differences. Anyway, let's get to this article, okay? This article here, what is the name of this one here? License. Okay, this one is about, The title of the article is called "I Could Be the Bank Individual investors buy busted mortgages. I can be the bank. Individual investors buy busted mortgages. A decade after the housing crisis, new risk takers invest in non-performing loans, often written off by banks, and push the borrowers to start paying on them again. Sandor Lau, once a filmmaker, found his calling on YouTube when he came across instructional videos about how to buy seemingly worthless home loans. Mr. Lau of Portland, Oregon, started accumulating mortgages, some of them delinquent, for many years, going back to the housing bubble. He owns more than 100 now, he says, with millions of dollars in payments owed to him. His full-time job is trying to collect. A decade after the financial crisis, there is a new breed of risk takers in the housing market. During the boom before the bust, lenders made mortgage loans to countless buyers who couldn't afford them. Lenders later wrote off many of the loans, but borrowers' obligation to pay remained. Today, in an improved economy, a ragtag group of individual investors, plus some Wall Street giants, is buying these old loans and trying to tease value out of them. The trade goes like this. Buy mortgages available for very low prices because no one has made a payment on them for months or even years. Non-performing loans, they are called. Track down borrowers and let them know they have a new creditor. Tell them they need to resume payments, at least at a partial level, perhaps offering to modify terms. Threaten foreclosure if necessary. If all goes well, collect on the debt or resell the mortgage. The mortgage as a now reperforming loan. The process marks a new chapter for hundreds of thousands of crisis-era borrowers who often had heard nothing about their unpaid loans for years and thought the debt had been disposed of. For investors, legal wrangling with such borrowers is common. The small-time investors, who by some estimates number in the thousands, operate alongside major financial players such as Goldman Sachs Group Incorporated and Cerberus Capital Management, LP. Individuals find their way into the business through video tutorials, seminars, and hotel room conferences that pitch delinquent loan investing as a route to stable income. Mr. Lau said he once lost $46,000 he paid for a second mortgage when the first mortgage holder foreclosed. But he also once made $70,000 on a loan he had purchased for $1. You can do incredible returns in this business, he said. You can lose your shirt, pants, and everything else if you do it wrong. He wouldn't say how much he has made, only that he no longer sleeps on the floor of his office. The investment opportunity exists because as the U.S. economy slowly recovered from the 2008 crisis, government agencies and financial institutions wanted to clean up their books and auctioned off billions of dollars of misbegotten credits. Today, there are nearly 800,000 non-performing loans, defined as those delinquent for 90 days or more, on single-family homes, reflecting $135 billion in unpaid principal, according to loan data provider Black Knight Incorporated. It's a market that really is a result of the financial crisis, said Andy Walden, the firm's director of market research. Some financial firms buy and sell such loans without making an effort to collect from borrowers. Others use loan servicers to try to get mortgage payments restarted so they can feed the loans back into the Wall Street mortgage securitization machine. Investors pooled and resold over $15 billion of non-performing home loans and residential mortgage-backed securities last year, more than triple a year earlier, according to Fitch Ratings Incorporated, which tracks only rated deals. The top tranche has often received a sterling AAA grade from rating firms. Greg Paulus coordinated loan sales over the past 2 years as a consultant to Urban Partnership Bank, a Chicago-based lender to low-income communities. He said he received 10 to 15 emails a week inquiring about delinquent loans for sale sent by investors ranging from small-time buyers wanting just one loan to financial firms with millions to spend. Everybody and their brother is getting into the business, Mr. Paulus said. After speaking at a June conference for investors In Dana Point, California, Mr. Paulus was swarmed by people looking to make deals. And an after-party featured the CEO of a title company playing a retired pro basketball player in a timed chess match. Gail Greenberg of suburban Philadelphia embraced the non-performing loan trade to build up her retirement savings, which took a hit in 2008. She started in 2016 with a loan in Flint, Michigan. She bought for $15,000. I only owned it for 9 weeks and the house burned down, Ms. Greenberg said. Thanks to an insurance payout, though, she made a profit of $27,000. Ms. Greenberg took that as a sign she should make loan investing her day job. She now owns 58 mortgage notes, as they are often called, totaling more than $2.4 million in unpaid principal. Paige Panzarello of Simi Valley, California, organizes workshops for aspiring investors, charging $697 to attend. In a session at one of her conferences in Costa Mesa, California, people role-played conversations with real estate agents to get comfortable gathering intelligence about local markets. Ms. Panzarello, who calls herself Cash Flow Chick, got into non-performing loans after nearly 2 decades in real estate. For me, angels sang, honest to God, when I got into this space, she said. Part of the agenda at the June conference where Mr. Paulus spoke was a session on tips to keep payments from homeowners coming. Speaker Terry Vaughn suggested bringing in repossession professionals to scare them. If you do it right, it's not illegal, he told shocked attendees. Regional meetup groups where investors network and share advice have also sprouted. Mr. Lau is a regular at such gatherings. He peppers his public remarks with motivational phrases and calls himself Chief Inspiration Officer of his investment shop in Portland, which has 2 full-time employees. There are no bad loans, only bad prices, he said. Mr. Lau grew up in a trailer on a 37-acre plot in eastern Colorado. His mother operated a sewing business out of her home, and the family of 4 slept in 1 bedroom. Mr. Lau said this modest childhood gave him a nose for bargains. After cycling through jobs in filmmaking and journalism and living for a while in New Zealand, Mr. Lau bought rental property but couldn't always profit. Between 2013 and 15, he often slept in a sleeping bag on his office floor so he could rent out his house on Airbnb. That was when he found his way into non-performing loans. On a recent Thursday afternoon, Mr. Lau, 43 years old, hovered over a standing desk staring at a color-coded spreadsheet with data on about 40 delinquent home loans. There were second mortgages holding a secondary claim on homes after someone else's first mortgage. He scanned information on the homes and the borrowers, including social media profiles, ages, neighborhood details, and property values. Some properties he deemed worthless, such as one in Oregon that had been foreclosed on by another lender. A Florida loan looked promising because the borrower was a man with a LinkedIn profile, a sign he cared about his career. Mr. Lau and another investor purchased the 40 loans for a few $100,000, a deep discount to the more than $2 million face value of the notes. It was the largest purchase of his career. After buying, Mr. Lau and other investors typically contact borrowers to try to make a deal, such as with softened repayment terms. If borrowers won't come to the table, investors know their strongest leverage is the threat of foreclosure. Mr. Lau keeps a list of the varying state foreclosure laws next to his computer. He said he has initiated dozens of foreclosures, but completed only a handful. If investors manage to get the flow of loan payments started again, they sit back and collect the cash as steady income. If the homeowner refinances, the loan investors may get what they are owed in a lump sum. Salem, Oregon homeowner Rebecca Devereaux had been sparring with lenders for years when she was contacted by Mr. Lau in 2016. Ms. Devereaux was trying to sell her home for less than the total she owed on her 2 mortgages, a short sale that requires both lenders to consent. She had been unable to get approval from the holder of her $69,000 second mortgage. After Mr. Lau bought that loan in 2016, he wouldn't say for how much. He quickly approved the sale of her house for less than the amount Ms. Devereaux owed. He said he made money on the deal, and although her credit took a hit, Ms. Devereaux was happy to be rid of her wrangles with the banks. I could have closure and move forward, she said. Michael Cortez, a homeowner in Vallejo, California, didn't take Mr. Lau seriously at first. He thought he was being scammed when he unexpectedly received a mailing in December 2016 from a representative of Mr. Lau's business. Call us, write us, email us, the notice said. We want you to be able to keep your home. Mr. Lau was seeking to collect on a $190,000 home equity loan Mr. Cortez and his wife took out in 2005 amid the housing boom. After Mr. Cortez ignored the mailing, Mr. Lau followed up with a voicemail in February 2017. You make good money and you obviously have a good job, so call me, Mr. Lau said, according to Mr. Cortez, who is a civil engineer. Mr. Lau declined to comment on the exchange, citing privacy laws. Mr. Cortez called Mr. Lau back and told him not to make contact again. He believed the home equity loan on his 5-bedroom house had been forgiven in 2011 after his lender, PNC Financial Services Group Incorporated, agreed to modify the primary mortgage. PNC stopped sending him monthly billing statements and repeatedly told him his loan had been closed. A spokesman for PNC said the bank books a loss on loans it deems uncollectible. It stops billing borrowers, but that doesn't change their obligation to repay. She declined to say how the policy affected Mr. Cortez, citing privacy restrictions. Records from mortgage tracker ATTOM Data Solutions showed that PNC sold Mr. Cortez's debt to a Philadelphia area note investor who in turn sold it to Mr. Lau's firm. In June 2017, Mr. Cortez received a letter saying Mr. Lau's representative would sell his home at public auction to the highest bidder. In an effort to prevent the foreclosure sale, Mr. Cortez filed for bankruptcy, at one point listing Mr. Lau's firm as a creditor. The case was dismissed and foreclosure proceedings resumed. In June 2018, Mr. Cortez filed suit in California State Court accusing Mr. Lau's company called Second Chance Home Loans LLC of unlawful business practices. I don't need a second chance, Mr. Cortez said in an August interview. This should never have happened. Messrs. Lau and Cortez reached a settlement. In September, Mr. Cortez said he agreed to pay $260,000 and has tapped his retirement savings to help pay it. Mr. Lau wouldn't comment on the figure. That pretty much wraps up that article, you guys. I don't know, good, bad, or indifferent. You make the decision. Non-performing loans are a big deal. As the article mentioned at the very beginning, if you have, some ridiculous amount, $135 billion in unpaid principal out there, 800,000 non-performing loans in total, 90 days or more. That's a good amount of money for someone to take advantage of. That's an opportunity probably. But as I mentioned, some non-performing loans are better than others. I guess if you use all the available tools like they talked about, LinkedIn profile, social media stuff, just do your homework. Maybe you'll find some way to make some money, even if it's nothing but giving seminars and meetups and different things, making YouTube video tutorials or something. Anyway, we just thought we'd bring this to your attention. Something interesting to read, maybe a sideline business or something like that. Who knows? Anyway, as we like to say at the conclusion of every podcast, you guys keep your eyes and ears open and stay safe out there and have fun. We'll talk to you later.